Hey everybody, I'm Tony Jones, and welcome to the Tony Jones Show.
It's not enough. People are willing to take the risk. It's just sort of a herd mentality, a lemming-like mentality. If you don't go with the flow, you're anti-American and therefore a suspect.
The Tony Jones Show, featuring punk, rockabilly, psychobilly, and Providence, Rhode Island's finest, starts right now.
He's a dangerous militia member, I hear.
Oh, and there she blows.
Back in the day, it was made known. Let he without sin be the one that cast the first stone. Now you can judge me based on what you see. It may make you feel better, but it don't make you better than me. The only way to achieve true wealth is through mental, physical, and spiritual health. The only true way to love oneself is through mental, physical, and spiritual health. Can't spend our lives on a wheel of fortune while it's spinning. All we see is a lonely dollar sign, hearts will go inside. Something better happening.
Now listen,
You can work hard, work your fingers to the bone. But what good is the money when there's no one there to spend it on? And you can push, be at the top of your game. But what good is the top when the loneliness is driving you insane? The only way to achieve true wealth is through mental, physical, and spiritual health. The only true way to love oneself is through mental, physical, and spiritual health. Can't spend our lives on a wheel of fortune while it's spinning. All we see is a lonely dollar sign, hearts will go inside. Something better, I believe.
Friends, the time for mediocrity and broadcasting is over. My name is Tony Jones, and you were tuned in to the Tony Jones Show, your destination for talk and rock. Online at TonyJones.org, Facebook.com/Tony Jones Show, on the almighty Twitter at Tony Jones in RI. With me, as always, is my occasional co-host, Mr. George Garner. George, good evening.
Good evening. That introduction never gets old.
We kick things off with some VulGarrity, Wheel of Fortune, the name of that one. Now, before we get to our guest, very excited to have, for the third time in studio with me, Crimson. He's going to be here in a bit. And, of course, Reverend Almighty, he's going to be here. And we're going to talk a little bit about this year's offering for Get Gored for Good to support Amos House. You guys all know, one of my favorite charities in Rhode Island. Great time every year. These guys really put some work into it. We're going to talk about that in a bit. We're going to talk about what roller derby is, because I think if people of a certain age, when they have the vision of their head of roller derby, they think of kind of the old school flat track, kind of maybe slowly going around.
Yeah, women with broken noses.
Women with broken noses, women that look like me, but with boobs. Okay, women that look like me. But, roller derby's a little bit different these days, and I want to get to that with them. But I got to mention real quick last night, George, for my entertainment, I classed it up a little bit. I went down to an evening uncorked for Rhode Island PBS, and I got to say, they took care of me. So if I'm a little sluggish today, if I seem like I'm a little out of it, it was a wine tasting, but it seemed to me that maybe they overbought on the wine. So towards the end of the night, it turned into more of a wine gulping, because they wanted to, they wanted to empty out all these bottles of wine by the end of the night, so.
Now, how classy did you get? Were these wine bottles with corks, or these wine bottles with screw tops?
No, there was not a box of wine in the house. Now, however, it was at the Pawtucket Armory.
Okay.
So there were, as classy as this event was, with some of the best restaurants in Rhode Island, some of the best wine around, there were still basketball hoops. Like throughout the ballroom. So that added a little
that's where the
levity
empties went through, right? That's.
I didn't think of that. I did, almost think about trying to dunk on one of these basketball hoops. That's how far it had gotten into the wine tasting by the end of the night.
Okay, now, by the way, speaking of how far did you get as far as classy? Did we miss the opportunity to see you wear a tie?
I did have to slap on the tie, yeah. I had slept on the suit jacket. I, however, did keep the marijuana pin on my suit jacket, and I wore Chuck Taylors. So,
okay. And are there pictures immortalizing this event?
There is, and I gotta make a confession as a lifelong Rhode Islander. I was going to talk about this on DJ Psycho Eddie's show, because he deals more with the culinary. But I actually last night at an evening uncorked, I had my first ever oyster. And I think it's going to be my last ever oyster, because it wasn't so much the taste, it was the consistency.
It's still trying to find its way out.
Yeah, it was, especially having, because I drove home, I won't name a specific number, but especially having a certain amount of wine and then having my first oyster, let's just say I almost declassed this classy event by yakking.
Basically, it was kind of like a loogie floating in a toilet by the time.
Do you hold your nose when you swim?
No.
What it reminded, and I'm not.
I usually swim standing up in very low, shallow bodies of water.
As a Jaws fan, of course.
Exactly.
And I'm not. I just don't do seafood. Surprisingly enough, if you look at my physique, there is a food that I don't do, and it is seafood.
Well, there is. I eat most seafoods, but raw oysters are not one of them.
It reminded me of when you're swimming and a little bit of salt water goes up your nose and you swallow it.
Right.
It's like I just wasn't into it.
No, I've come so far as to taste them and spit it out, basically.
Now, however, the filet mignon that was there and the all-day braised ribs, that was more like it. Those more up my alley.
Those didn't last all day.
No, those we definitely cleared the table, as it were, by the end of the night.
Now, we're upsetting Ed. He's shaking his head over here.
Well, there's a couple of things I wanted to broach. First off, if you had an oyster, if you don't like them raw, you do have to try them at least once in your life. You have to try them fried. In fact, one of the places you frequent, I know you go to, Sushi, has them.
You could fry up this computer and I'd eat it.
Well, you dip anything in batter, it automatically improves the flavor.
Right.
But if you go to one of your favorite hangouts is Sushi.
Yeah, some of the best drinks around.
I unfortunately have not had an alcoholic beverage there. I have, however, done some horrendous damage to the sea life they have serving there. The sushi is really good, but the fried oysters over there are excellent. They fry them enough so that they don't have the phlegm, loogie consistency.
That's the word I was looking for.
The phlegm?
Phlegm.
Yes. Well, you know, I'm a fat guy. I do not have many things that I won't eat. Raw oysters is one of my Achilles' heels. I just can't bring myself to slurp it. However, I will eat a raw clam. Please hold your jokes till the end, or at least till we go to break.
We don't have to say a word. There's so many of them that are implied.
The wheels are turning.
But no, you have to go. You have to have at least try it once, a fried oyster. That's why I was shaking my head. It's just, if they had them there, you would have loved them.
It was the raw oyster was something on my bucket list. It's been scratched off the bucket list, and I of course will continue to support locally sourced local seafood. I just will not be supporting raw oysters anytime soon. But I do support the folks that are out there on the bay every day raking those things up. We're going to get down to some music, then we're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit about Get Gored for Good coming up. And speaking of coming up, we're going to hear a double from Michael Graves, who's going to be here in Rhode Island on May 1st. Of course, we're going to have the debut of Wolfman Chuck and the Brimstone Boys, and opening up the night will be your old pals Tony Jones and the Cretin 3. That's going to be May 1st. Michael Graves starting off with Dead Man right here on the Tony Jones Show.
And wind was howling by cemetery high. He was sending shivers down my spine when I was passing by. Oh, heavy glow of food on the rise above the broken crib. Oh, open door and dead hand in the light is reaching out for me. Deadly sight from a swollen eyelid stand upon me through the dark. He will never be a man again and waste so much life. Oh, heavy glow of food on the rise above the broken crib. Oh, open door and dead hand in the light is reaching up for me. Yeah.
Scarecrow, the name of that one, off of Night of Sam Hain. Some Michael Graves right here on the Tony Jones Show, coming out of a double shot of Michael Graves, who will be in town on May 1st at Firehouse 13. Last time we chatted, I brought you into Dead Man. You were tuned in to the Tony Jones Show, Facebook.com/Tony Jones Show. Be sure to check out rifreeradio.org for all your webutainment needs. Of course, on the almighty Twitter at Tony Jones in RI. George Garner is here. George, good evening.
Good evening.
Very excited to have our in-studio guest tonight, the Reverend Almighty and Crimson of quite a few things. But to talk about here first is of Providence Roller Derby. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening, sir. What's going on?
So, how did you guys get involved in Providence Roller Derby and in the fashion of what you guys do of calling the matches and kind of being the mouthpieces out there?
Rev, this starts with you. So.
Well, yeah, it was about, believe it or not, it was sometime around 2007, and this really good-looking girl walked by me. And
how did I know the story was going to start that way?
It's the only way you can get men to volunteer for anything. So this really good-looking girl walked by me in what was the worst dress in the world, wrapped around the best body I had seen in Providence in a while. Iron Maiden form was the name. Danielle Riley. She's been in a bunch of bands through the city over the years. And I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Come down Saturday night and you'll find out." And went down there. I think it was the second bout that they had ever done, second or third bout. And it wasn't even a sport yet. It had just kind of started out. The skaters weren't even sure what they were supposed to do, so it was kind of like a race almost. After the first bout ended, they realized that they needed someone to explain what was going on to the crowd, even though they really didn't know themselves what was going on yet. Hence, a microphone gets put into some hands, and after that, it's just history.
And then quite a few years later, Crimson comes along, right?
Yeah, it was actually, I was dating one of the skaters, Jenna Von Diesel in Providence, and she goes, "Hey, you should come to one of my bouts." I said, "Absolutely." Got into it at the point where by the second half I was almost throwing chairs on a track. I was getting so revved up by it. And that's where I met Rev Almighty here. And then after a while, just chatting back and forth about the pro wrestling world and roller derby and stuff like that, you say, "Hey, you should just grab a mic, join me one time." And from there, I pretty much took the mantle from him, so to speak. So
explain to folks listening what a modern roller derby bout is like. It's not what you picture from when you were a kid with, some women going round and round. This is it's some pretty intense stuff for folks out there who haven't been.
Yeah, it is a contact sport, but I put it this way. There's offense and defense going at the same time. Instead of having a ball, there is one ball that is a human being, known as the jammer, with the star on their head. And their whole purpose is to get past different members of the opposing team, and then they score points that way. So while both teams have jammers going on at the same time, they're playing both offense to help their jammer score the points and defense blocking the other jammers too.
So there's a multitude of goals for the skaters to move forward, and that's where some of the how shall we say contact comes in between the skids. I've only been to a handful of bouts, but man, I've seen some people go down hard at roller derby.
Oh, yeah. As I always say, they wear less pads than NFL and NHL players and are probably some of the most resilient professional athletes in international sports because this is blowing up into so many countries around the world.
Yeah, there's 64 countries right now that have modern-day women's roller derby. It's the fastest-growing sport in the world right now. The WFTDA, which is the governing body, started in 2006 with 20 leagues. It's just blown up, and it is definitely not the Saturday after wrestling pre-scripted, events. It is 100% legitimate. Not to say that wrestling isn't legitimate. There's no script. These girls are making it up on the fly, and the points are real.
Okay, because that would be my first question, revisiting roller derby after the roller derby back in the day. As much as I like pro wrestling, we will admit that occasionally pro wrestling is choreographed.
Okay.
So, occasionally. So you're saying modern roller derby is 100% competitive?
100% competitive,
okay, I mean,
absolutely.
I think that's what a lot of people would need to be reassured
Yeah.
about.
There's definitely there's no script to the game. Think of it as a rugby match. You may not know what's going on all the time, but you're going to enjoy the action. You know that there's nobody telling that guy to grab the ball, flip over 5 people, and then get tanked by the biggest guy on the field.
No, well, I was thinking more along the lines of, every so often, kind of like in like Friday the 13th movies, like every 10 minutes there's got to be a kill. It's not a case where in roller derby, like every 5 minutes there has to be a crimson clothesline.
No, I mean, we've thrown a couple clotheslines into Crim over the years. That's actually the first time Crimson ever was on microphone with roller derby. He came down to promote a wrestling event and got a little cocky in front of the ladies, so we clotheslined him onto the cement floor and sent him packing.
Yeah, but that's what I meant by non-choreographed. In other words, there's no thought at all for anything else other than just the game itself.
Absolutely, yeah. There's nothing preset for the bout.
And like I said, and I think a lot of people that remember it back in the day, that's why I wanted you guys to really emphasize that, because this is a whole new thing then.
It absolutely is. It's actually being looked at by the Olympic Committee to be an Olympic exhibition sport. It blew up much faster than it should have. It's only been around since 2006. It literally blew up to where the stands in certain arenas would have 10 to 15,000 spectators watching these local amateur girls play a sport that people were just trying to figure out. It's now grown to, like I said, over 64 countries. The rule set is pretty set in stone now, and now the Olympic Committee is taking a look at it.
So you think it might be even more exciting and grow at a faster pace than curling?
I don't know. Those guys with the brushes.
I was thinking about inviting some curlers here for an interview just so they'd sweep up the floor for us.
The rotator cuff injuries in that sport, let me tell you.
But it's interesting to think about, too, Crimson, kind of like our past, where, especially with the case of Providence Roller Derby, it's a nonprofit organization, and these people getting the crap kicked out of them every weekend are pretty much volunteers.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not getting paid $6, $7, $5, $4 or any figures at all. And they come from all walks of life. Outside of Derby, they're professors, physicians, teachers, lawyers. So they go back to that day job, and then at night they strap on some skates, helmets, a couple of pads, and go toe-to-toe with each other.
Not only do they not get paid, I mean, some of these, when you're playing on the travel team level and traveling around the country and in some cases other countries, it's been known to cost players tens of thousands of dollars a year just to play the game.
I remember, when I was doing independent wrestling, thinking that I was awesome because I got paid $100, but I realized I spent $50 in gas and bought a $60 hotel room to go to the match.
Now, that begs the question, though. Now, if the popularity of it is catching on and it's growing at such a rate of speed, you would think that would automatically attract people with money in their pockets to bankroll it.
Well, ESPN actually brought on the national championships last year. I think it was ESPN 3. Jokingly, we called it the Ocho. They actually did televise the final 3 bouts of the championship last year to see what the market may do in a syndicated sports situation.
Right. So then, but that money doesn't trickle down yet. In other words, where the next step will be for pockets with money to bankroll the actual leagues.
Exactly. I mean, like with most sports, I mean, I was a former UFC fighter, and back then there was no Pepsi Cola tag in the middle of the ring. It takes you're giving a promise that 100,000 people or plus are going to watch this event on TV. They're not quite there where that can happen yet, but they're definitely moving in that direction.
I think everybody in this room can speak to the fact that with anything independent, it takes quite a while for that trickle down to, in fact, trickle down.
Yes, but when there's beautiful women,
that helps.
That
helps.
speeds up the pace.
It's tough traveling across the country with 12 girls in a van. You're sweaty and hot. It's a tough life, guys.
And once again, a better segment could not have been made because we're talking about beautiful women, and our next block here of music is all some female-fronted local bands. When we come back from that, we're going to talk specifically about Get Gored for Good, which is happening in Burnside Park on April 24th. These guys can tell you how to get involved, how to donate, and it all benefits Amos House, which we'll talk about in a little bit too, one of my favorite local charities. But before that, we're going to hear from Hunter up next, who not only is celebrating a 21st birthday today, but also won New England Music Award last night. This track, Smooth Seas Never Made for a Skilled Sailor, right here on The Tony Jones Show.
One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4.
You're my left-hand man. You're a habit I can't stand. Duty calls right when we found land. You were fishing and I was swimming. I got caught inside your net. I am your best bet. When you're sailing around the world, I won't mind being the girl. With each wave you hit, no, I'm the mermaid that made it. Swimming right beside, through the ropes and the riptide. Mooring anchors away, I'll see you when you're home, babe. Currents brought us together through all the stormy weather. We see the same skies over us, the sun it flies. The waves don't crash as hard, and the breaks of them don't sparkle. And I hope you catch my tail everywhere that you may sail. When you're sailing around the world, I won't mind being the girl. With each wave you hit, no, I'm the mermaid that made it. Swimming right beside, through the ropes and the riptide. Mooring anchors away, I'll see you when you're home, babe. The waves pulled you away, away, away. And I pulled your anchor to stay, to stay. Now on the sand I lay, I lay, I lay. Please never leave the bay, the bay, the bay. The waves pulled you away, away, away. And I pulled your anchor to stay, to stay. And now on the sand I lay, I lay, I lay. Please never leave the bay, the bay, the bay. deep inside of me. False conclusions of what I can take. I don't need your affection. It's not your intention. Protect me from the choices I have to face. So I can find a cure. I need something more. So what are you waiting for? Show me who you really are. Deep inside of me, I told you to go, 'cause you're not taking me. And if it tells you ring, then it's closing in. I will
Inside of Me, the name of that one, some SexCoffee right here on the Tony Jones Show. Before that, we heard from Hunter, Smooth Seas, Never Made for a Skilled Sailor. Facebook.com/Tony Jones Show. At Tony Jones in RI on the almighty Twitter. TonyJones.org is my website. And, of course, throughout the broadcast, go on over to any of the social media sites. I monitor those throughout the live broadcast. And, of course, if you're listening in podcast form, we appreciate that. But try to come on and check us out live. I just have to say a quick thank you to everybody who's submitted content for the show, Rhode Island Free Radio and the Tony Jones Show. Go to rifreeradio.org, click on the contact page, and, well, George, as you saw firsthand, I finally made it to our P.O. box to clean out the submissions for those who still send in physical, and some great local releases in physical form. And of course, you can.
Yeah, there is a stack of CDs sitting on this desk now, isn't there?
We have some work to do. We're gonna have to get those into the database here. We're gonna have to send some of those out to some of our great blog writers for review. And we always appreciate local content submitted to us. We will play it. That's the most important thing.
Yes, and especially, I'm looking at this stack of CDs here in front of us, and there's some real professional product here. So we give credit for effort. So yeah, we will definitely play it.
I have been on both sides of the P.O. box. I have been the person dropping off hundreds and hundreds of demos, and I've been the person picking up the demos. So if you send it in here, we will get to it because I know the struggle.
Yeah, and let me tell you, it's much more fun being the pimp than the hooker.
Very well put. You should make a T-shirt out of that. Our in-studio guest talking about Providence Roller Derby and the upcoming Get Gored for Good, Reverend Almighty and Crimson are here in studio with us. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening.
So real quick, talk about someone listening in who wants to check out some local roller derby. How do they do that? When are the bouts? And how do they go down and enjoy this entertainment that you guys have been able to describe for us?
Well, since everyone hunts around the social media realm, Facebook is always a good place to find it. Providence Roller Derby. You can just type right into the search bar. I'll bring you up. But I'd always recommend ProvidenceRollerDerby.com. They have the updated bouts for both the travel season and then the really absolutely fun home season coming up. The next one's actually going to be April 30th, Saturday, April 30th at Thayer Arena. It's going to be a doubleheader with their A team, their Rhode Island Riveters, and then their B team, the Killer Bees, are going to be there. And they're going to be taking on Suburbia.
You guys mentioned it a little bit earlier, and we talked about it off the air, but there are teams all over the world now that are traveling and putting on roller derby bouts. Do a lot of out-of-towners come through to Providence Roller Derby?
Generally, you'd see those at like the big tournaments, like one of the big ones that happens every year in the summer down in Philadelphia or Feasterville, Pennsylvania, is ECDX, the East Coast Derby Extravaganza. And I've been there the last couple of years. Had the pleasure to call for teams like Helsinki, Cramp City out of Sweden, called Tiger Bay out of Wales. So you get to see a lot of those teams come in for like the big tournaments because they have to like pay for the big flights to come in and actually play a lot of these bouts. So and that they actually absolutely have a blast playing all the teams. They come here with all smiles and they leave with all smiles, whether win or lose.
Now you guys all know I love Rhode Island, but we have folks flying in from Helsinki to Philadelphia. But it's tough to get someone to drive from West Warwick to Providence to do stuff in Rhode Island. So talk a little bit about the big charity event coming up. We try to cover it here every year. You guys all know I'm a big fan of Amos House. They are a local organization that offers a hand up as opposed to just a simple handout. So they have educational programs. You can get your culinary certificate through Amos House, but they also have the traditional soup kitchen. They have a great transitional home for women that are homeless, that are with child, that helps them out up until they are able to become financially stable. But like I said, the best part of them, all the training programs, if you're interested in learning carpentry, they have a welding program, regular job skills, how to do your resume, how to go out and go to interviews properly. It's one of the best local organizations. When you do your research to donate, you'll see that all the money with Amos House is going where it should be going. There's no limos, there's no penthouses, there's no private jets. Amos House is the real deal. Tell us a little bit about, well, first of all, how Get Gored for Good is going to benefit Amos House, and then how do folks get involved in this very fun event?
Well, this is our 5th year. Amos House approached Providence Roller Derby with the idea of imitating the running of the bulls like they do in Pamplona, Spain, releasing bulls onto the streets of Providence. And, of course, you know, the way our politics are, they're not going to let us use real bulls, so they approached us to get the roller derby girls with their skates, their pads, as mean as they are, and make them meaner by putting these gigantic helmets on them with these huge horns, making them the bulls so you and your family can actually run a 1.8-mile race through the city downtown and be chased by these bulls. Now, the bulls are going to have red paint, and you're going to be given white shirts, just like in Pamplona, Spain, and they're going to chase you down, and they're going to splatter you with blood, and you may make it, you may not. There's also this year a 5K added. It's the same. It goes along the same route as the CVS Caremark for people in Providence that always know something by what something once was or what it was yesterday. So there's a 5K. There's also the fun run. You can sign up for a team by going on the website, getgoredforgood.org. You can create your own team for only $35. You can name a team, create your own team, get all your friends to join in with you. Or you can join an existing team for the same $35.
I like the Matadorks. The Matadorks, number one.
Okay, the Matadorks really suck. There's a team called Gorgeous, and that's where I got all the best-looking women in Providence that are not on the roller derby. It's really hard to find good-looking women that don't play roller derby. But I found a few of them, and they're going to be on the Reverend Almighty's team, Gorgeous.
You know, I'm always a huge fan of fundraisers and charitable efforts that aren't the typical spaghetti dinner or bring a canned good, yawn. Yeah, man, those things all have their places.
All right, stop right there. Now, you know, we're friends, and let's cut the bull here. Now, you just want to see gorgeous women with horns running through the streets of Providence.
Who doesn't?
Exactly. All right. So let's leave aside all the highfalutin idealism here. What it amounts to is, through the streets of down Providence, you can be chased and caught by a beautiful minotaur-headed woman.
And it's happening on a Saturday in the afternoon. So you can be chased by women in Providence, but it's at 2 a.m.
Right.
It's that closing time.
Right, and they have no teeth. These women have no teeth at 2 a.m. The women you will be pursued and caught by in the full light of day will be horny, and they will have teeth.
Well, most of them have teeth. We will say most.
Yeah.
There's a couple that have been around the league for a while.
Okay. Now I'm hesitating. Okay.
Well-placed elbow. A well-placed elbow pad.
The event has drawn huge notoriety. Last year we raised over $120,000, and
Damn.
much like the Bernie Sanders campaign, it's not from anybody shelling out and writing us a $100,000 check. It's from a bunch of small groups, small businesses getting involved. In East Bay Commerce this year is one of the main sponsors, but the money comes from the $35 fee that people with their families, because it is family friendly, can pay to run in this event.
Do you think we could maybe shame some of these local politicians into being trampled by the bulls? Not only run, the rest of us can run with the bulls; they can be trampled by.
Are we talking about Tony?
I was going to say, if it's going to be politicians, I will volunteer to go on roller skates, put on the hat, just to run.
Instead of running with the bulls, we'll run on the bullshit.
If Gina Raimondo was there that day, we would run forever.
The event's not warmer or cooler; it's hot. But yeah, you got this is the 40th anniversary of Amos House, so. Our big goal this year is to try to hit $140,000.
Nice.
Even if you don't want to participate. And again, a lot of my friends are like, running? And I'm like, no, you can actually stroll, skip, moonwalk your way through. Because we have people in wheelchairs that come.
Right.
People that bring their dogs, bring strollers with their babies to be a part of this. But even if you can't make it that day, which is April 24th, Sunday morning, you can actually go on getgoredforgood.org and actually donate towards the team anonymously, or put your name up on the board and say, here, I'm here to support the Amos House of Providence.
And if you don't want to run, you just want to come down and check it out, you can still chip in, you can still sponsor a team. And then there's a huge, like everything Providence Roller Derby gets involved in, there's a huge after party taking place. Burnside Park is going to be lit up. I know we have Revival Brewery in there. There's going to be beer. Yes, there'll be beer. There'll be alcohol. There's going to be stuff for the kids. There's going to be hula hooping lessons by Vicious Styles. There's the ball pit.
The ball pit, yeah. Like halfway through like the race itself, the fun run is one of those like 50, 80 foot like inflatable American Ninja courses with a ball pit in the center. Which is always fun, but there's going to be the Buck and Bronco music bands. What was it, Slick?
Slick.
Yeah, Slick's going to be playing that.
Slick is playing that. We're promoting it like it's crazy, and it is a crazy event, but it's a crazy family fun event.
A crazy event with a purpose.
It's an incredible purpose. And last year there were people there with 2-3-year-old kids that were just having just as much fun as dirty old men like yourselves.
Okay, and my interest is peaked to the maximum now that I found out that I don't have to actually exert myself athletically. I can basically make a donation and throw myself at their mercy.
Right? Exactly.
We're good to go.
You'll be covered in red by the end of your run. Let's play a few more tunes then. We're going to unfortunately have to wrap up this episode of the Tony Jones Show. But before that, let's hear from those alone. And again, we could not have made a better segment here because the name of this track is what you're going to be doing when those bulls are chasing you through the streets of Providence. The name of this track is Get Away right here on the Tony Jones Show.
My mind is a little hazy.
Some GrandEvolution right here on the Tony Jones Show. Goodbye, the name of that track. Before that, we heard Getaway. It was some Those Alone. You were tuned in to the Tony Jones Show. Online at TonyJones.org, Facebook.com/Tony Jones Show. And thank you for checking in with me on the almighty Twitter at Tony Jones NRI. I wanted to mention at the top of the hour a big congratulations to our friends who held the TEDx conference yesterday. And the reason there's big congratulations and the reason I didn't attend the TEDx conference yesterday in Providence, hosted by our friend Jim Nellis, was because they sold out the Columbus Theater. So I was a little late getting my tickets, and I was standing on the outside looking in. Big congratulations to them holding a sold-out event in these economic times and a sold-out event in Providence, Rhode Island. So a big philosophical round of applause for those folks on the TEDx conference. TEDx Newport's going to be coming up, and, of course, they'll be doing another TEDx in Providence next year. Unfortunately, we are just about out of time, wrapping things up here with George Garner, with Crimson, and the Reverend Almighty. They're from the Providence Roller Derby. They are fighting it out to raise funds for Get Gored for Good. Now, you guys each have your own individual teams.
We do.
So it's for you listeners to decide who you're going to support after hearing them on the Tony Jones Show today. So I want you guys quickly, because we only have a few minutes left, to make your case for each of your teams for folks listening today.
Go ahead, amateur.
No, the main event, number one up here. The Matadorks is the greatest team of all time. It's our third year running. And I even came up runner-up. I'll call it runner-up. I'm going to call cheating on it in the twerking contest when we started it off. Yes, there was. And that's only because I just broke over, like I'm in like 33 now, so now I'm gaining weight in the back there.
There's a twerking contest going on around here today, but that's because we had Taco Bell.
The Matadorks are the best. You need to join our team. If not, you can always donate on getgoredforgood.org.
All right, all you need to do is pull up a picture of last year's Matadorks, and then pull up a picture or check me out on Facebook and see what the team Gored just looks like. You can make up your own mind. You
Make
can
the decision with your eyes.
Nerds over beauty.
You can either go to Chili's or you can come to the Foxy Lady. It's up to you, folks.
George, thank you.
You're welcome.
Crimson, Reverend, thank you guys again. And I honestly mean when I say keep up the good work. Amos House, such a great charity. And don't forget, Providence Roller Derby, they are a nonprofit, and these folks that are battling it out, they're having fun. They're battling out for your entertainment, but they're not exactly hopping in BMWs at the end of the bout with a broken arm or a twisted ankle or anything like that. So go ahead and support your independent local Providence Roller Derby. Thank you guys all again.
Thank you for having us.
And we're going to leave here with some local music, as we do. We're going to hear some Pals up next for you. This track is Reach. Don't forget to go to TonyJones.org, Facebook.com/Tony Jones Show. Go to RIFreeRadio.org for all your Webutainment needs. We are building that up until a full-blown media outlet, so be sure to go to RIFreeRadio.org. And, of course, thank you all for tuning in. Catch us each and every week. Bye, everybody. Bye.